Cowboys Texans. What do you think we can learn from this game on Sunday? Because I feel like at this point, I don't know what too much I could possibly glean from this game. Help me out here.
I mean, we can learn how good the Cowboys are at staying focused on the task at hand and like not mucking around with a team that they should beat soundly. Although I don't even firmly believe that, because they kind of mucked around with teams they should beat soundly the last two games and wound up doing that, even though they looked like crap for a half or even three quarters, as the Colts game might suggest. So, I mean, I don't really think there's a ton to be gleaned from this other than, have the maturity and the professionalism to not slip up against the worst team in the league and get out of there with everybody healthy. We can learn that the Cowboys won't lose any of their key pieces against the worst team in the league. That's about all I got for you.
Now, they've already lost a piece that I find interesting here, Dave, because Anthony Brown, obviously not your key cornerback, but he was one of your starters, and now you have to call Kelvin Joseph into to duty, and maybe even Deshaun Wright at certain points. Do you also have the same concern that I have, that like this could open you up to like coverage busts or just people, other offenses looking at that dude as the mark and just trying him consistently?
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I think it's probably fair to say, and I've developed a reputation over the years for being an Anthony Brown defender. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'll stand by that. I've always said I've never tried to sell him as a great cornerback, but he's never lost his job to the scores of guys that they've tried to give it to. He's been good more often than he's been bad. I mean, like if Anthony Brown is the weak link of your secondary, I think you can survive and play good football, and that's been the case the last 2 years that Dan Quinn's been here. So for starters, that. But then I think it's also fair to say, even when Anthony Brown was healthy, teams were kind of doing that. I mean, the last few weeks specifically, teams have kind of targeted him downfield and said, hey, this is a way that we think we can beat you. So at the very least, I think the Cowboys have some experience dealing with that. But I do think there is a difference between seventh-year vet, 4,000 snaps or whatever it is, Anthony Brown, and now Kelvin Joseph, who's going to be getting some of his most extensive action. I mean, I know he's played plenty, but starting from beginning to end in a meaningful game, he played a lot of snaps against Philly last year in that game that didn't mean anything. This is a little bit of a different animal. And even more so, Deshaun Wright, who we really haven't seen a ton of at cornerback outside of the preseason. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do this. I think you can work around it a little bit probably because the Cowboys have such great safety depth. You can find ways to sort of give your young corner a safety blanket, and you would like to think against most receivers, Trayvon Diggs can take some pressure off by handling his man on his own without any help. But if you're looking for a reason to be concerned, I think that's probably it, is just seeing how these guys handle being thrown into the fire. And for that matter, it's probably pretty fortunate that they get such a beatable team to start off with to sort of help these guys get their feet wet.
Dave, I want to ask you about this because obviously it has consumed the Cowboys with respect to off-the-field stuff when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr. and how all this has played out. What has been your overall thought on this and how we've gotten to this point where it feels like things have cooled off significantly between the Cowboys and Odell Beckham Jr. and his knee issue?
I mean, it seems pretty clear, everything we're hearing from the team side of things, both out in the media and then internally as well. It just doesn't sound like they're confident that he's going to be ready to contribute anytime soon. And I think every time we've talked about this, whether it's like on TV or just on Twitter, and that's why you always qualify it and say, like, if he's healthy, if he's ready to go, if you think he can start playing in the regular season and work toward the postseason. And if that wasn't the case, then it never really made a ton of sense. And, maybe we're wrong about this. Maybe Odell's a lot closer than he says he is. But I think what we've seen and what we've heard kind of speaks for itself, in my opinion. Just the fact that, he hasn't worked out for anybody. We haven't seen any physical evidence that he's ready to play. If he was, I mean, I remember saying this a couple weeks ago, like, man, don't you think it's this is around the time that you want to be getting onto a team so that you can start practicing, learning the playbook, getting your knee right. I mean, think about Michael Gallup started practicing like week 2. He played his first game week 4, and, he's still kind of sorting things out and trying to find that old high level of play that we remember from before his injury. He's had some moments here in the last couple weeks, but it's been an up and down process. So then you think about a guy who tore his ACL a month later, who, at least Michael went through a team rehab and was at training camp, conditioning that knee every day with the training staff. Odell hasn't been doing any of that stuff. So now, I mean, we're already creeping up on mid-December, and you're just like, how realistic is it to think that this guy can give you something meaningful before it's too late? And so I would say I started feeling that way 2 weeks ago, and every day that's gone by since, I just feel less and less interested in this because it seems less and less likely to matter. And the fact that it kind of seems like it's cooled off, it kind of feels like it verifies my opinion about it.
We're talking to Dave Helman of Fox Sports and the show Speak on FS1. And Dave, I'm asking you this question because it's a win-win for me. Either I find another ally or everybody listening enjoys me standing up against a further wall of enemies. But I don't know if you heard about like the sports analytics survey or the NFL analytics survey in which they asked the analytic teams to answer this question, and they asked if momentum was real, and 15 squads said yes, that they believe in it, and 5 said that they didn't. How do you feel about the idea of momentum in sports?
What if we reframe the word or the idea of momentum and stop calling it momentum? Like, momentum implies that it is like this tangible thing that exists. Like, when you're talking about momentum, it almost makes me think of like a boulder on the field, and you can like tilt the field and, have the momentum roll that way. It's like that's bogus to me. That's BS to me. The idea that it's just this force and it's either on your side or it's not. But like, what if you reframed it as confidence? The confidence that your timing is right, that you're seeing the field the right way, that you're dialing up the right plays, that you trust your coaching staff. All of that works well and good. And then the other side of that is having the confidence to offset that in the other team. Like, when you feel the other team doing that, when you feel them, jumping the snap because they're so in tune with what you're trying to do you have the confidence to switch it up or to make the play that backs them off? You know what I mean? Like, it's so funny. All the time in a game, it'd be like, oh my God, like all the momentum is on their side. And then against a really good team, like a really good team that's on its P's and Q's, they'll go out there and have a great drive, go get some points, go get a first down and bleed some minutes off the clock. And they're like, oh no, like the momentum just magically evaporates when you do that. And it's because momentum isn't real. It's just who's got the confidence, for lack of a better word, like who's clicking, who trusts in what they're doing more. And so I do believe in that. Like, I do believe that there is almost like an inert power that you can grab a hold of and lasso, like when everybody's clicking on the same page and when everybody believes in what's going on. But you can come up against it the same way in another team. Like, it's not just this unstoppable force that you have no control over. And I think that's what kind of gets lost is momentum, confidence, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's generated by who's doing their job better and who has more confidence in what they're doing.
Is that sufficient enough for you, Reg?
It don't have to be sufficient for me. Really, it just sounded like Dave was like, who's doing their job better? Which I feel like we're going out of our way to call it stuff that we don't need to. We could just be like, yo, they're playing well.
So, you tell me what you think. Like, so you're not a believer in momentum.
No, I think that oftentimes we talk about this thing as if it's predictive, and it's just not. Like, oftentimes,
I think we're saying the same thing. Yeah, like I hate when people talk about momentum as if it is beyond the control of the people on the field, or like it's just, like I'm with you on that.
I don't know, Dave, because at some point, like, right, what kind of feeling or what kind of, I don't even know the best way to describe it, but there's something bigger going on. Like when a team gets on a roll all of a sudden. Yes, they're playing well. Yes, they're executing better than the other team. But just like, what was it, Paris Campbell the other night when the Cowboys rattled off the 33 straight points in the fourth quarter. He was like, look, it was 21-19. Then I just looked up and it was, 50-something to 19. Like, something happened where the Colts just could not find any kind of way to stop anything that was happening. You say the Cowboys were just better, or at some point they just realized, this thing is happening to us and we can't stop it.
Oh, there's a non-magical answer to that. The Colts realized that they were playing a good team that was starting to click, and they fell apart. They were like, "Oh, we're not good. We can't protect our quarterback. We can't do this stuff," and they fell apart. They had the power to stop that from happening and didn't do it. I mean, for every situation like that where somebody's rolling. I mean, how many times have you seen a great player or a great team completely stop a rally because they didn't fall apart in that moment? I don't hate to bring it up. It was awesome. I saw this so many times at LSU. When you have a Joe Burrow, I mean, he's still doing it with the Bengals. It's amazing. Every time it feels like the other team is getting their break, he'll just go back out there and put his foot back on their throat because he's never fazed by the moment. He's been that way the whole time I've been watching his career, college and pro. And so that's why I balk at the idea of momentum. It's no, this is in your control. It's just a matter of whether you're good enough and confident enough to stop the other team from doing it.